Good morning. It is Saturday as we are live and we are in mid-February. February tends to be the snowiest part of the year, especially here in the Northeast. And next week is the full snow moon. So the moon in February tends to be the snow moon. And that is just a reflection of what the Native Americans thought about this time of year, that it is the snowiest, right? So that brings us to today, which is yoga for ski and snow season. Now, you don't have to be a snow sports enthusiast to be affected by the snow, right? If you've been out in it, shoveling it, or even trying to stomp and make your way through it, it just changes things, right? In some cases, it slows us down. If you're wearing skis or ice skates, it speeds you up. Either way, a lot of what we experience this time of year because of the snow or because of the ice or the slickness anywhere, whether you choose to actively, sport in it or not, we need strong balance and we need strong legs, especially for this time of year. So that's the intention behind this practice. I'm also going to be focusing on specifically the quadriceps, which is if you touch the tops of your thighs, that's that area. Skiing, snowboarding, ice skating, snowshoeing, those kinds of things, even just hiking in the snow, where you have to pick up your legs a little bit differently this time of year than you would otherwise. You need strong quads for that. So we'll be doing that. And in general, if you're wearing boots, because it's just this time of year, you've got some extra gear on you that has some extra weight, and that affects our body, right? Your body can do all these things, but today's practice hopefully will help you strengthen. So quads, we're going to talk about or work the outer hip area, especially for those of you who like to ski, whether that's downhill or cross country perhaps, or snowshoeing. You need a lot of that strength in the outer hips. And then there's a lot of this sort of like twisting, if you imagine like pulling, right, on your ski poles, if you're cross countrying, or even if you're doing downhill, there's a lot of this sideways action. So we'll be working on some strengthening twist motions, as well as that will help the outer hip. So those are sort of the three areas that we'll be focused on today. And we're going to start with a dynamic warm-up. So come on up to stand unless you're already there. So you see I have a chair here. You don't have to have a chair, but it can be helpful for one or two of the things that I'll show you. And part of what I'll show you is how to, yes, yoga for Winter Olympics. How many of you have been watching the Olympics? Here's my secret. When I was a little kid, and maybe you did this too, but I have some ice skating skills, even though, as I mentioned before we got on, I have fallen before on my knees recently. But I used to, in the middle of the living room, try to do like my triple loop double sow cows, even though I could never do them on the ice. So you can imagine little Emily twirling around watching figure skating when she was little. All right, so I mentioned I have a chair. You don't have to have one. It might help to hold on to that unless you're near a wall, in which case you can hold on to that instead. But that's just why I have the chair. If you have the chair, just put it way off to the side for now so that you don't run into it. All right, let's start by just looking around. You might even take your arms and kind of spread them out. Just look around, do like a little fake yawn stretch. It's called pendiculation. This is actually a word. Yes, today I learned. And looking around your space also tells your nervous system that like, hey, okay, this is safe. There's no lions, tigers, or bears in the room, and I am safe. After checking in around you, maybe take your hands to the body and check in. You can do a little tap on the head or hands to heart and belly. I'm keeping my eyes open, but you're welcome to close them if you prefer that. And just notice what's going on, maybe a little excitement. It's actually relatively warm here today. So those of you who do like to go out in the snow may not have the chance today. Notice any emotions or thoughts that are with you. And honor whatever parts of you showed up today. Beautiful. When you're ready, we'll start with a joint warm up. Some of you may be very familiar with. Step on whatever leg you prefer. I start on my left usually. Let somebody in. Take the other foot behind you, ideally with the tops of the toes on the ground, unless you've stubbed a toe recently, in which case bring the ball of the foot to the floor. And then make a circle here. So wintertime, the joints tend to be a little bit more poppy and crickety, so I love doing this. And if you're getting ready to do some snow sports or being outside in the snowy weather, this is great. Change directions. And then change sides. Take your time. You can count the rotations. It can be really useful. If you don't like counting, skip it. And then change directions on this side. I can feel that rotation all the way up into my hip and thigh bone, right? Okay, bring the feet together, the knees together, hands on top of the thighs, and make some circles here. So this is for a lot of good reasons, although it's not actually a circle of your knees. Hopefully your knees only do two things, straighten and bend. There's very little rotation available, and that's on purpose, right? So really the shin bone is what's rotating inside of your ankle. Change directions. And you might hear some of my own pops and cricks working on them. All right, come on up to stand. Step the feet a little wider and rotate the hips around in a circle. Every time I do this, I forget and then remember how good it feels. Notice what's true for you. Change directions. All right, and then come on up with the arms around to twist side to side. I mentioned twisting is a big part of a lot of snow or wintry sports, right? This twisting of the trunk. It's also great if you drive a car so that you can look behind you. All right, let the arms slow down and bring the rotation into the shoulders. A few times to the back. And then a few times to the front. One more time to the back, otherwise it feels a little funky, and then bring the hands together. Pump the elbows, but because the hands are connected, you'll make little figure eights or rotating the wrists here. Take it at any speed that you like. Change directions. And then shake out the arms. Nice. Stand strong with the feet underneath you and start to make a circle with your nose like you're painting on the wall in front of you. So it is related to the head and neck, but we're not making it super big. And you're going at whatever speed feels right. Ideally, your eyes are open, but if that makes you dizzy, you can make the circle smaller. Change directions. Nice. And then bring the hands to the tops of the thighs and let's do a standing cat-cow. Normally I do Serpa or the serpent after this, but let's do hands on the thighs and then arch, slightly stick your bum out, standing cow pose, round your back, and curl into a standing cat. Go back and forth a few times here. Nice. Find an ending for that and start to shake out your hands. You can shake and move the arms as part of a warm up for your shoulders. Now, I don't think of the shoulders and the arms as being a big part of a lot of winter stuff, but they definitely are in there, right? Especially if you have poles attached to your hands while you're trudging through the snow. You can make this as big or small or fast of a movement as you like. We're going to add to this. But when you reach up, you can stand, and when you reach down, maybe do a little squat. You can go as deep as you like. You can touch the floor if that's possible or desirable. And so now you're starting to bring in a bit more of a squat. Now, as best you can, breathe in and out through the nose, which is really hard to do when you're out in the cold. But I promise it will help you feel less sore the next day. And I'm not saying you'll feel terribly sore after this, but it is possible. All right, I'm going to stop the shaking of the arms, but continue this squat-like movement a few times. Again, you can decide how far down you want to go. Baby squat, deep squat. A lot of this depends on your own sort of body shape. Some ankles don't let us bend very far. Mine are some of those. All right. Find an ending for that. Pause for a moment. We just moved around a lot of energy. I'm feeling some tingling in the arms, my face. All right, from here, we'll do some heel raises. And this is where you might want that chair or the back of the chair to hold on to. Or if you have a wall nearby, you can either turn to face the wall or just have one hand on the wall. It's up to you. If you want to work on your balance, or after you try a few, you can do it in the middle of the room without any help. You're simply going to lift and then lower. And you don't have to go to the maximum range. Notice some of the feelings and warmth, right? The calf muscles tend to get worked a lot. I was just in my ski boots 2 days ago, and I can feel them still a little sore. If you go ice skating, right, your ankle, the muscles that flex your ankles and these fronts of the shin muscles, woo, it's a lot. Unless you get used to it, right? If you want to make this more challenging, you can do one leg at a time. You can do that now, or you can do this on your own later. And try a few on one side, and this will help you realize that there is a difference from left to right if you weren't already aware. Right. All right, find an ending for that. Maybe shake out the leg, shake out the other leg. I'm going to move the chair out of the way, and then start to step wide on your mat and bring the other foot with you. So step wide and then together, wide and then together. I was watching some speed skating last night in the Olympics. So this is our pretend speed skater move. You can keep going like this, or you can add a little hop. Add a little hop. It doesn't have to be a big move, but you can try to challenge yourself a little bit and go the length of your space or your mat. If you want to speed it up, you can. And you can speed it up and then slow it down for a couple. Do a little dance move here. We'll go another 10 seconds or so. So if you really want to bring it up, go ahead. And if you are jumping, you might start to feel the outside of your hip. That's one of those areas I was talking about that we're strengthening today. All right, slow it down. Maybe you're just stepping, swaying, or pausing. You can always check back in. Excuse me. All right. This is another spot where that chair or the wall might be helpful. Bend your knees, but bring the feet a little wider apart. And then shift over to one leg. Doesn't matter, we'll do both sides. Take the other foot and see if it's possible to cross it over at the ankle. And then sink down any amount. Now, hopefully you feel some stretch sensation through the outer leg here. And that's where that chair can be really nice to help you hold on. You can also do this in the chair, right? If you want to take the balance challenge out of it, cross one ankle on top of the other thigh, and then lean forward. I'm giving you lots of options, especially if you're out skiing and you're in the car coming home and you want a little stretch for your après ski. You can do that in a chair. But we're also working on our balance here today. So if you want that to be part of the experience, you can play with letting go of the chair. Nice. When you've had enough fun on one side, change it up for the other side. So feet wide, bend the knees, shift over to the other side and cross the ankle over. And then sit back any amount. Remember, you can do this in a chair. If on this side it feels different, play with letting go of the chair or the wall. Nice. All right, when you've had enough fun on that side, shake it out. Now you may still want to be close to the wall or chair for this next one. Shift your weight over to your right foot and have your left leg straight, but bring it back a little bit behind you. And if possible, point your toe, mostly so that it's out of the way, right? Keep the left leg, your lifted leg, as straight as possible and try not to overarch too much. It's okay, you will arch a little bit because of where you are in space. But now try to draw a circle with your lifted big toe. And it might be a really small circle, but what I hope you start feeling is some of that work in the glute and that outer hip. Woo! If it gets a little crampy, stop or make the circle a little smaller. And then try changing the direction of your circle. So you're same side, but you're drawing it in the other direction. Maybe some different feelings there. Yes, this is my new favorite outer hip strengthener move. Not really sure what to call it yet. Okay, keep a hold of the chair if you're still there and bring the lifted leg into your other hand. So now we're kind of giving this hip a break. If you want, you can hold with both hands and test your balance, work your balance a bit. And maybe you shift the hands underneath the thigh. You could interlace the fingers if you like. Now you're kind of holding your leg up. You can do it with one hand or two. And then maybe bend and straighten the leg in the air. Doesn't have to be a lot, right? You could be just here, or you could be kicking it out quite a bit. Now, if you're feeling courageous today, maybe let the hands lift off of the leg. Ooh, that's where that quad comes in. Anybody feeling those feelings? If you straighten the leg and try to hold it out, feel free to lower it if that's too high. Yep. Ooh, and then bring it down. Ooh, shake it out. How you doing? All right, let's do the hip leg circles on the other side. So step onto your left foot. Feel free to grab the wall or the chair if it's useful. Kick the right leg back behind you, maybe point the toe, and then draw that tiny circle in the air behind you. I'm already feeling this quite a lot compared to the other side. Notice what's true for you. Feel free to stop, take a break. And remember to do a few in the other direction. Change the circle. All right, then pull the knee in towards your chest, right? Give it a little break. Maybe you hold with both hands. Maybe you bring the hands underneath the thigh. Now you're kind of holding it up in a different way, and then play with bending and straightening on this side. So even though this feels like you're straightening your knee and you're bending your knee, right? Can you feel how the work is actually coming up higher into the hip? Yes, and if you want to do it without the hands, look, Mom, no hands. Maybe you straighten and hold for a second. You can always lower the leg. Feel those feelings through the front of the thigh and everywhere else. All right, step down, shake it out. Whew. Let's give these guys a bit of a stretch. So again, I'm returning to the chair just to help with balance. Bring your left foot into the hands behind you to stretch out the quad. Now, if the foot doesn't appear in your hand very easily, that's where this chair is another great choice. If you take the foot to the top of the seat, then you're still lengthening this front. You might not feel as much of the stretchy feelings, but the point is to create space more than anything else. Nice. When you've had enough fun on the one side, switch and do the other. Again, top of the foot on the chair, or if it's within reach, maybe grab it with the hands. All right. Step down. How you doing? Good. All right. I'm going to move the chair out of the way and use the wall instead this time. You can use the chair or the wall and start to kick one leg a little bit back and forth like you're swinging. Your arm will kind of swing in its way, and you can make this quite big if you want. Just make sure there are no walls or furniture or dogs in the way. And if you want to check in with your balance, maybe you step away from the wall or the chair and see what it feels like. You don't have to go fast, right? You can be kicking and swinging much slower, much smaller, but see what it feels like to be on one foot without the help of the wall. And then slow this down. Try the other side. And I like to start with the hand on something. Swing the foot back and forth. You choose the size and speed. And then maybe you play with doing it away from the wall. Maybe this side is harder to balance. Maybe it's easier. Maybe the swing feels different. Woo! All right, slow that down, shake it out. All right, now this move is gonna just feel funky, but what I wanna bring to your attention is that sometimes, especially when you're like snowshoeing or even walking through the woods in the snow with boots on, you kind of have to take these exaggerated steps. So you're gonna just exaggerate your step, lift your leg, bring it forward or out to the side. You might even go off of your space. And then sometimes we might kind of lose our balance and feel like we have to fall, right? So this is part of that. It's like, where do I step next? It's not always as easy as just walking, right? The way we would without the snow or without the ice. So use your arms to help catch you as you bring the other foot down. You can do this with your grandchildren or your kids or your godkids. Little monster snow stomps. Nice. Now, here's the trick. Try to do them a little bit backwards. Just be aware of your space. So next time you lift a leg, take it back somehow. Doesn't have to be as big. It'll feel a little more awkward. Look where you're going. That's that twist. You're gonna have to turn to look, right? If you run out of space, turn around. But often we can't just choose to go forwards, right? We might lose our balance in the middle of the woods and step back. All right, shake it out. Speaking of backwards, when it's not icy and there's no snow on the ground, for example, like today, because we happen to have a warm spell, I highly recommend walking backwards outside. Now, the reason for that is, and you can do it a little bit on your mat here, the reason for that is you will feel the work more in your legs and your quads. And I remember seeing this the first time when I lived in Hong Kong for a couple of years when I was in high school. In the parks in the morning, the older people would be doing Tai Chi and doing loops around the park, walking backwards. And I just thought, that's interesting. Apparently, even the Chinese have known for a long time that walking backwards creates longevity and is good for your health. It's especially great for the joints in the ankles and in the knees. So something to think about and try on your own. Again, you might have to look a little bit behind you as you go, and then pick a place where the sidewalk or your walkway is relatively safe, not all these jagged edges and things like that. So, all right, let's go on to our next move, which will be a squat. So you can pick the distance between your feet. You can change your mind about it in a moment. You're gonna bend your knees and come back up to stand. Your arms can do whatever they like. You can reach them forward like chair pose. You can keep them on your hips. Or like how we did at the beginning, you might reach them kind of down towards the floor. It's up to you. If you want the heat in the shoulders, bring them up towards your ears. Nice. Now sit in a squat for a moment and shift your weight over to your right foot. Can you lighten up on the left toes? Maybe even lift them. And then stand up just on that one side. If you want to bring the foot down before you do that, that's fine. Now you may have changed your mind about your arms, right? So bend down into a squat with 2 feet on the ground. Shift your weight over to the left side now. Try to pick up the right toes. Maybe they're just light. Maybe they're a little bit behind you. And then either bring the foot back down and stand up, or stand up with just one leg. All right, let's do that again. 2 feet, squat. Shift to one side. Balance-ish. And then stand up. 2 feet, squat. Shift to one side, balance. You go at your own pace. Try this a couple more times. If you want to take this up a notch, you can keep one foot off the ground the whole time. So you're essentially doing a one-legged squat. And it could be that instead of lifting the toes all the way, maybe you start with the toes a little bit behind you, just lighter on the ground. That can help you feel a little more stable until or unless you decide you want to take the toes off the ground. You're in charge and in choice. If you're doing them all the way on one side, switch. So you get a chance to try the other side. Nice. And when you're ready, maybe give yourself a pause, a break, and shake it out. This is where I'm going to bring the chair back into play. You can decide to use the chair, top, or the seat, or even the side of a couch or a wall. We're going to do a downward dog variation here. And I like this standing version because when you're out, even in the woods, there's usually a bench or something or a picnic table. You can take this version of downward dog, take your hands onto the wall or the chair, and then walk the feet back any amount. The legs can be bent or a little bit straight. And so this can feel really nice to just create space in the back side of the body. You can even do this with skis on, I've learned. That's where the poles are great. You can stick your poles in the snow and then slide yourself back and do this. All right, to come out, walk towards your chair or the wall. And again, you can do this with your hands on the ground too. I just love the way it feels different. There's no weight on the hands or arms, and you don't have to have a space, you know, in the middle of the woods where you can drop into a downward dog. All right. I'm going to move the chair a little bit out of the way and come back onto the mat. Take your left foot way back and come into a warrior one style lunge. So I'm going to bring my hands on my hips to start. Bend your right knee. And you might bend and straighten a few times or walk the feet around to find the spot that feels good. Nice. And I'm going to lean forward slightly, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. So imagine being out in the woods, cross-country skiing. There's that cross-body movement that happens. So if your right foot is the one that's in front, your left arm is the one that's actually going to be pulling to bring the other foot forward, right? So you have this opposite arm and leg movement. So go ahead and reach forward with your opposite arm, your left arm in this case. Your right arm can reach back if you want, or you can be close to the hip. And then step together at the front of your mat. Switch sides. Bring the right foot back. Bend your left knee. Pause. Take a moment. Warrior one or high lunge. And then reach forward with the opposite arm. And imagine pulling yourself with the arm and the side body muscles to bring yourself forward. Nice. So maybe you try this a couple times and you can decide the pace, right? You can step back, reach with the other arm, and together pull yourself to the front of the mat. Now you can do this much more speedy if you like. And if you do, it can feel like you're just kind of swinging your arm out there. See if you can imagine the pull, 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 pull each time. Again, smaller movement is great. And if you want to challenge yourself a little bit differently, including your balance here, we're already working the balance with this, but in a different way. Slow it down just enough that next time you pull, instead of stepping the foot forward, you're going to bring your knee up closer towards your chest. So pull and squeeze, kind of like you're doing a crunch. Ooh, all those muscles. Nice. And then step down. Try the other side. Take the right foot back, reach the left arm forward. And as you pull, bring the knee up towards your chest. You might even feel like you're kind of curled into a ball, and then bring the foot back down. Nice. If that was like not as much fun for you, you can go back to one of the other things. And I find if you do a couple on one side, you get a little more tired out rather than switching each time. So that's a choice you can make. So I'm going to do a few with my right foot forward and my left knee coming up. And then step back again and bring the knee forward. By doing a couple on the same side in a row, you're challenging the balance on that standing leg much more, right? Are we feeling some feelings? Nice. Hopefully You're feeling some of that trunk twist, some of those trunk muscles that we need. All right, whew, that side got tired. I'm gonna switch to the other side. Switch whenever you're ready, or if you're switching each time, great. Take a break, pause. The heart rate might be up, which is part of the fun. So now my left foot is forward. I'm gonna bend the knee. I'm gonna pull my right knee up close to my chest. And then step back, reaching the opposite arm forward, and then pulling my knee towards the chest. Again, the hardest part, I think, other than the hand-eye foot coordination here, is breathing with the mouth closed as best you can. Nice. When you've reached whatever you define as your limit, pause, stop, shake it out. The next move will be a wide-legged forward fold. I'm going to use the seat of the chair for it. You can decide if you want that there, if you have blocks. So I'm going to take the feet wide and simply rest my forearms on the chair. I do not recommend this one with skis on because they might keep sliding and you might end up in a split that you didn't want to be in. If you would like to reach towards the floor, you can. Absolutely, it changes everything. And this is also a nice place if you have your hands on the chair or even the wall or the side of the couch to actually try more of a wide-legged downward dog variation, much like we did before, but with your legs in this wide stance. Whenever you feel complete, make your way down to sit. You can move the chair off to the side. And if you have a blanket nearby, just bring it close. We'll use it for the knees in a moment. How's it feel to be sitting? After all that standing, 40 minutes of standing and moving. So if you like, bring the knees side to side, like windshield wipers. And I can, after skiing 2 days ago, I can feel this as I'm rolling over my bum. It's like a massage for my glutes. Whew, on the side of my hip after those standing foot circles that we did. All right, bring the feet together and the knees wide for bound angle or butterfly. If the rotation here doesn't work for you, you can straighten the legs instead or try something else. Feel free to bring the chest forward slightly. Okay, come on up to hands and knees. And this is where I'm going to pad my knees with a little layer blanket. And turn sideways on your mat so you have space, or however you want to be, but my hand is going to be on the side here in a minute. So from tabletop, lean onto your right leg and walk your right hand over to that side. Now, straighten out the left leg behind you in sort of a side plank variation with the knee down. Now your bottom, the foot on the floor there, the one that's got the knee on the ground, is there to help you balance a bit. And maybe it feels good to bring the left arm up and over for a big side body stretch. All those strengthening moves we did for the outer hip, I can feel some spaciousness here. And then see if perhaps you can lift the left leg, the extended leg up. Maybe bring your left hand to touch. Now you might be feeling some of those outer side body and hip feelings. And then lower, if you like, add the arm to stretch it out and lift. So it's like a half moon, but we're balancing on the knee instead of on the foot. So if being on the knees is not where you like to be and you still have your chair nearby, you could absolutely do this with your right hand on the chair, left leg in the air, like this instead. All right. I just wanted to bring us a little closer to the ground for those of us who are comfortable there. All right. Try one more. Lift, hold, and then lower. And here, keep your left inside of the foot on the floor and start to push it down. So you can feel perhaps some more work happening on the inner thigh now. So push the foot down, push your hand into the floor nice and strong. And for anybody who is feeling like they want to try it, you can try to lift your knee up a little bit off the ground. So you're working the inner leg and kind of holding your right knee in close. Feel free to lower it down and rest. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. So now we're getting some of the inner thigh action. Ooh, especially good for skating, whether it's speed or otherwise. Give yourself a break, bring the hands to the floor, and maybe move the torso around in circles, cat-cows, anything at all here. And then we'll try the other side. So now rest your weight more on your left knee with your left hand supporting you. Take the side body stretch here. With the right arm overhead, if that feels good. And then perhaps lift the right foot so that the leg comes parallel-ish for that balancing half moon variation. Hold here, squeeze the side body muscles, and then lower. Take a moment, maybe add the stretch. And then lift again. And hold. You can hold for as long as you like, as little as you like. Try a few more rounds on your own. Again, you can do this standing with the hand on the chair. And then after this last lift, lower the foot so that the inside of your right foot makes contact with the floor or the mat. Press down into the inside of the foot and into your left hand. And maybe float the left knee off of the ground. Maybe just for a second. Maybe it's just getting lighter. Notice the inner thighs working here. Lots of other parts of you too. All right, take a moment. Return to hands and knees and wiggle around. Okay. So for this next part, I want to give you a stretch for the outer hip, and pigeon is sort of the classic one. There are lots of ways to do pigeon though. So if you're feeling like you really want to wind things down, I've been working hard. You're going to swing your knees around to the left, to the right. So you're in sort of a 90-90-ish, right? It's not perfect 90-degree angles. Maybe it's more like 45-degree angles. And then lean in any direction. It could be forward, it could be a little off to the side. And then find a spot and pause there. So that's option one. Option two is to bring this to the back on the ground and cross the ankle over the top of the thigh. So that's reclined pigeon. If you're wanting some downward dog action, come back to your hands and knees, lift your hips, take a moment here, and then bring your left knee forward and straighten the right leg back for more of the active pigeon pose. So lots of choices. Spend a few moments. When you feel complete with that side and you're ready to switch, take your time. You don't have to pick the same variation on this side if a different one works better for you, including none of the above, right? You don't have to do the same thing on both sides. Your right hand or whatever your dominant hand is does a whole lot of things that your left hand doesn't. Find a shape that fits for you, and then spend a few moments here. When you feel complete, make your way out. If you're on the ground, maybe you swish your knees back and forth, again, like windshield wipers. If you're up in downward dog or you want to come up in downward dog, you might do a little one-legged downward dog so you can bend your knee that's in the air and open to the side. This will give a bit of a stretch for the quad as well as the side body. If you like, try the other side. And then make your way to sit with the legs out in front. Shake it out. All right, I have one last little bit of work for you. And this goes back to that twisting crossbody action that we worked on from our lunge position, which you may remember. We're going to do it. We're going to work it here from a boat position or a seated position. So find your sits bones. Those are those bony protrusions underneath you. Bend the knees so the feet are flat or on the ground, and then lean back slightly. I'm holding the bottoms of my thighs for now. And this may be where you stay. If you want to add the twist, you can bring your arms forward and then reach one side forward, maybe the other side back slightly, and then switch. So you can touch the other hand down or to the side, or you can kind of swing however you like. Now, if you want to turn this up a little bit, lift the feet up off the ground. It might slow you down. The slower you go, the more feelings you will feel. Take a break whenever you need, or try it for another 10, 9, 8, reach, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let the feet come together in butterfly or wide. Rest your abdominals, rest your soul. And then if you would like, bring the feet out in front for a seated forward fold. If you prefer them out wide, that's great too. Gentle fold. This can also help sort of bring in the energy that we've scattered around ourselves and our space throughout this active practice. And then lower yourself down onto the back. I'm going to adjust my blanket so that it's underneath my back. That little extra warmth, especially this time of year, and cushion can feel just, oh, so nice. Draw the knees in, maybe rock a little side to side. And then keep the hands on the left knee and extend the right leg down along the floor for wind relieving pose. Keep the right hand or the opposite hand on the bent knee. Take your left arm out to the side and then help yourself roll over into a reclined twist. Drag the leg across the body and open up. And then come back around to do the other side. Pull the right knee in, the left leg long for wind relieving pose. And then prepare for the twist on this side. Grab the knee with your left hand and then gently roll across. This is why I practice for this move. And roll back through the middle. Bring your feet flat to the floor, knees bent for a gentle bridge lift. You might even lift and lower a few times. Feel the strength in your legs, your back, your trunk. You can also lift and hold for a moment. And then lower your bum. Extend yourself out on the ground. And rest for a moment. What does it feel like to work your body, to move your legs, your elbows, your feet, your arms in a way that they're intended to move, right? To flex, to extend, to push, to hop. Much like the feeling you might get after a day out on the mountain or in the snow. A feeling of having worked and used your body. And for many of us, there is a sense of pleasure in that. even if there's also a sense of tired. Notice the ground underneath you and give thanks to the earth for holding you up for all the days. And if you would like to stay here a little longer to rest your body and your mind, feel free. If you'd like to transition into the next part of your day, do so slowly and sweetly. Perhaps roll over and spend a moment with your head resting on your arm. And as you're ready, press yourself up to sit. Look around your space again. It might be a little different than the first time when we started the practice today. And thank yourself for creating this time to be with yourself, to practice, to use your body in the way that it is intended, one of the ways. And I thank you so much for your practice and your attention. And I wish you a wonderful rest of the day, snowy or not.